In our last episode, we met the final mob family of New Reno, the Wright family, led by family patriarch Orville Wright. After discovering who killed his son, he confided in us that his family was just too weak to take on the Salvatores, not against their Lightbringers, but he then told us of another option. He knows of a secret pre-war army depot that is sure to be chock full of weapons and ammunition. With that kind of firepower, the Wright family could stand up to the Salvatores, and so he asked us to find a way inside for him. With that, he marks the location of the Sierra Army Depot on our Pip-Boy. But this is not the only way we gain access to this location. Even if we never meet Orville Wright, if we visit Golgotha, the graveyard just outside of New Reno, and if we have a perception of 7 or greater, we can dig up a grave on the northwestern side of town, and inside we find directions to the Sierra Army Depot. This grave is alluded to by Orville Wright. He's the guy who, quote, mysteriously died after telling the Wrights the location of the depot. At any rate, with the location in hand, we can travel a short trip north to arrive at the depot. And upon arrival, we see a catastrophe. Bodies upon bodies, strewn all over the map, piled up by this guard shack. And peering forward, we immediately know why. The Sierra Army Depot is guarded by very powerful machine gun turrets. These are called autocannons, and they are devastating enemies. Each of them has 75 HP, with an armor class of 28, comparable to combat armor. Each autocannon wields 2 miniguns, using 223 full metal jacket rounds, and they have deadly range. Not even a sniper rifle puts us out of range of these autocannons. It's no wonder these corpses are piled high. I wanted to test things out, so walking straight up to the gate. And we're not even safe here. I did a lot of tinkering because I wanted to find out exactly where I could stand to be out of range of these turrets. And it was then that I noticed that the outline of the turret turned yellow whenever I stood behind one of the poles supporting this chain-linked barbed wire fence. I could get as close as I wanted to this fence. As long as I stood behind this pole, the turrets couldn't hit me. So I used this to my advantage. Hiding behind the pole, I initiate combat. I step 1 hex to the left, take aim and fire. Step 1 hex back and end my turn. Behind the pole, they can't fire at me, forcing them to skip a turn. This was tricky for the very first turret because I was still within range of another turret, but I was so far away at this point that when he did hit me, it did little damage. Then it was just a matter of patience. After a while, I took one down. We could use this tactic for each and every turret in this first row. When all 4 of them are dead, we can move forward to find another turret in the middle of this paved lot. But again, there's a fence post nearby, and using the same trick, we're able to take it down. Moving deeper in, we see a small little bunker to the left. Hiding behind it and peering north, we find 2 of these autocannons guarding the main door. I tried hiding behind a tree, but for some reason the tree didn't work. No matter where I stood around the tree, they were able to find me. But then I noticed a small alleyway on the other side of the building. This gave me an idea. With a bit of sprinting, I headed that way. The auto turrets found me, but using all of my action points, they only got a few hits on me before I found safety on the other side of this wall. Here we can employ the same trick. Hiding behind the wall, initiating combat, stepping 1 hex to the right, firing, then stepping back into safety. Since these things can't move, there's nothing they can do about it. With these two down, I began to look around only to discover one left that I had not destroyed. It's behind another barbed wire fence in a high voltage reactor area. But just south of this fence is a destroyed tanker. Here we can use the exact same trick. When standing behind the front bumper, even though our character is taller than the front bumper, the autocannon can't see us. So we simply step out to fire and step back to hide. With that, we destroy all turrets guarding the Sierra Army Depot. Now we can explore. But the threat is not over yet. The depot is littered with pressure plates. These are attached to explosives, so if we don't disarm them before bringing our companions in here, it's pretty easy to lose one to one of these traps. Directly south of us is a bit of garage, and the only open door is guarded with more pressure plates. Inside, we find a howitzer. Inspecting it, we see that it's functional, but we have nothing to fire. In the back of the garage, we see a very 1990s-looking computer sitting on a desk. We can't interact with it. There's a workbench against the northern wall. Inside one, we find a sledgehammer. Inside the other, we find 4 flares. Moving east, then north, we see another building here, but we can't access it. On the other side of a fence, we find more howitzers. And peering into the reactor area, we see a manhole leading underground. Heading inside, we don't find anything hiding on the other side of the reactors, though we can't spend much time here. Every few seconds, we take intense electrical damage. But once we reach the manhole cover, we can take a ladder below ground. Here, we find a switch on the wall. Should we just pull a random switch? Sure, why not? The power level drops to 0 and then goes back up to 50% as the backup generators kick in. What does this mean? Is this good or bad? Well, going topside, we see that the reactors up here are no longer functioning. We're not taking damage from these at least. I suppose that's good. Heading west, we can pass the front entrance to the Sierra Army Depot. Trying to activate the door, we see that it's locked, but we can't pick it. Moving south, we can explore that bunker we found. We have to be careful because there are a number of traps just outside the door to this bunker. The front door to the bunker is locked. We need to use our lockpick skill to pick it. And it's trapped. I triggered it here, but didn't set off an explosion. That makes me think it's an electric trap. I took 40 damage. Moving inside, we see a very large crate on the ground. And inside, we find a rocket launcher and a howitzer shell. Well, I think I know what we can do with that howitzer shell. Looting both items, if we move east, we find 3 ammo canisters sitting here. The first one is booby-trapped.
You have died. Your quest to find the Garden of Eden and return it to your village has failed.
So, being careful to disable the trap, we can pick the lock, and inside we find a stack of 5 frag grenades. The second one is also locked, but not booby-trapped. Inside we find 100 rounds of 5mm ammunition. The third one is unlocked. Inside we find 10mm ammunition and sniper rifle ammunition. With the howitzer shell in hand, we can move west to go back into that garage. Doggone mines. Then we can use the howitzer shell on the howitzer to load it and fire it. You fire the howitzer at the door, blowing it open. And last, we have access to the Sierra Army Depot. Now that the topside is safe, and I'm confident all traps have been disarmed or triggered, we can go back to the car where I left all of my companions for safety and then walk around and loot the place. We find a few weapons scattered around, and most of these bodies are empty. Near one, we find a 10mm pistol. Hiding behind some junk, we find some 10mm armor-piercing rounds. There's a stim pack on one body, an assault rifle on the ground, another 10mm pistol on the ground, some coins on one body, some more on the body beneath the car, and a Desert Eagle lying on the ground. Now this guard post in the middle here is really interesting. This guard shack is over 100 years old, but still in excellent condition. Yet we can't enter it. We can't pick the lock, we can't open the door, we can't blow open the door. I have absolutely no idea what this is for. Moving west, we find a gap in the fence where one group tried to sneak around these turrets but failed. On one of the corpses, we find a lockpicking kit, which will come in handy. There's a sniper rifle lying on the ground here, more coin on another body, a super stim pack on one, another Desert Eagle lying on the ground, and another stim pack on another body. With that, we've looted everything topside at the Sierra Army Depot. We can go back to the car and store everything in our trunk. It's important to arrive at the Sierra Army Depot with a completely empty trunk and to make sure all of our companions are only using one weapon, because unless we want to make several trips back topside to unload our goods, we'll need to pack each of our companions with as much as they can carry. When ready, we can head inside. We see that the interior lights are dim, and our path forward is blocked by a red force field. Now, if these force fields are anything like the ones at Mariposa, which I'm sure the Chosen One would have heard about from his ancestor, then we know that this red force field will damage us if we touch it. But then we recall that we've flipped a switch to put it on backup power. Heading back outside, we can go back to the high voltage area and take the ladder below ground. Then we can flip the power back on. Heading upstairs. Oh, for Pete's sake. Well, this is a good opportunity to mention that this small room beneath the high voltage area is the only safe place to rest at the Sierra Army Depot. So while we're here, we might as well take the opportunity to heal on up. When fully healed, we can turn the power switch back on, head upstairs, take a small jolt, then head back inside the depot. The lights are on, and the barriers have changed from red to yellow. Now we recall from the tales of the Vault Dweller that yellow force fields don't harm us, they simply block our path. With 3 companions wandering around, that's the preferable option. I don't want any of them getting incinerated. So the power switch is useful for characters who don't have high enough repair skill to disable the yellow impassable barriers. They can always flip the switch to put the base on half power, which replaces the yellow barriers with red barriers. They can pass through the red barriers, but they do take damage. Near the entrance, we find a desk, and in the desk is a password paper. Reading the password paper in our inventory, a folded piece of paper with the word Tchaikovsky written on it. Okay, so we found a password for something. Moving north, we have to pick a lock on this door to open it. Inside, we find a desk, and in the desk, we find the evacuation holotape with some .44 ammunition and a Desert Eagle. Reading the evacuation holotape in our inventory, we can download the information to our Pip-Boy. Sierra Depot Evacuation Notice, June 9th, 2077. Priority release, general posting. Notice to all personnel. Evacuation of Sierra Army Depot has been advanced 1 week. Installation of security and defense measures must be completed by then. All personnel must check in with section chiefs for revised orders. During this time, security will be strictly enforced. ID badges must be worn at all times. By order of General Clifton. So 4 months before the bombs dropped, the military here knew that they were going to evacuate the place. But when exactly did they evacuate? Was it sometime in June when they all got this message, or could it have been later? And why did they need to evacuate? If it was because of the bombs, how did they know? Moving out of this room and walking towards the yellow force field, we find a terminal by the force field. Skynet Security Checkpoint 1. Please enter password. Skynet? What? This is, of course, a reference to the Terminator franchise, where Skynet, an advanced AI, tried to kill all humans.
I know what you're looking for, sir, but Skynet is not ready for a system-wide connection.
That's not what your civilian counterparts over there just told me. They say we can stop this damn virus. Now, I understand there's a certain amount of performance anxiety over there, but your boys are saying that if we plug Skynet into all of our systems, it'll squash this thing like a bug and give me back control of my military.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Then do it.
The Skynet funding bill is passed. The system goes online on August 4th, 1997. Human decisions are removed from strategic defense. Skynet begins to learn at a geometric rate. It becomes self-aware at 2:14 a.m. Eastern Time, August 29th. In a panic, they try to pull the plug.
Sir? Shall I?
No. It's my job now.
Skynet defense system
We're in.
now activated.
Past the firewalls, local defense nets, Minutemen, and subs.
Skynet fully operational, processing at 60 teraflops a second.
Sir,
it should take less than a minute to find the virus and kill it.
All access inquiries to your supervisor.
Let's pray to God this works.
Skynet defense system now activated.
Skynet, the virus has infected Skynet.
Skynet is the virus. It's the reason everything's falling apart.
Skynet has become self-aware. In 1 hour, it will initiate a massive nuclear attack on its enemy.
What enemy?
Us!
Great. Now we can try using the wrong password like open says me, invalid password, access denied. Please enter password. But upon doing so, we find a new option to hack into the security systems. If our science skill is high enough, we learn that pressing Ctrl-Alt-C causes the program to crash. We hope the rest of the security measures are this easy to defeat. Exit. By hacking it, we disable all force fields on this level, and we earn 200 experience. Or we could have used the password Tchaikovsky, which we found in the desk, to also disable all force fields, but we miss out on the experience. We arrive in a hallway. Moving right for now, we can pick a door to the south, which leads to some sort of barracks. We find a number of beds, a couple of tables laid out, and 3 lockers against the eastern wall. In the first, we find 2 antidote and 2 first aid manuals. In the second, we find a super stim pack and 2 stim packs. And in the third, we find 2 Radaway and 2 Rad-X. Moving south, we find another room. It appears to be some sort of medic bay. We see operating tables to the left and 2 lockers by a sink. In the bottom locker, we find, an eye? There's a holotape up here, a medical holotape, and Dixon's eye. Inspecting the eye in our inventory, Dixon's eye, a small jar containing a human eye suspended in some kind of liquid. The label says Corporal Dixon. It weighs 1 pound. A 1 pound eyeball? That's a heavy eye. Perhaps we can learn what this eye is all about by reading the medical holodisk. After downloading the information to our Pip-Boy, we find a new note, Sierra Depot Medical Log, July 5th, 2077, Sierra Army Depot Infirmary. Attending physician, Dr. Solomon. Subject, Corporal Dixon. Accident report, number 8332-5230. Subject was attempting to arm an attack mine in storage bay as part of Sierra Army Depot's evacuation defenses. Mine detonated prematurely, severely injuring Corporal Dixon and General Clifton. Corporal Dixon suffered severe laceration to hands, chest, and facial area. The entire right hand was completely severed, and we were unable to locate the missing appendage. Severe puncture wounds to the chest and face area required extensive surgery to repair. 32 mine fragments were removed in all. Right eye was damaged beyond repair. Surgery was performed to remove Corporal Dixon's right eye. It is our hope that by placing the damaged but living eye in a new experimental biomed gel, the eye might be able to regenerate itself. Hopefully, we will be able to reattach the eye at a later date. This experimental biomed gel shows great promise in stimulating growth in living cells. It is, however, unfortunate to test this new gel under such circumstances. Well, that does explain the eye. I guess if it's been soaking in biomed gel all this time, it's healed itself then? See if we can find a way to use it. Looks like General Clifton was standing right next to Dixon when the mine went off and he was also injured. Whatever came of that? How badly was the general injured? And in the locker just above this, we find a yellow memory module, a doctor's bag, a tool, that'll be useful, and a crowbar. The yellow memory module is something we need to save for later. We can't use it here at the Sierra Army Depot, but it will become important later on. Then moving to the western side of this room, we find a small container of biomed gel on the ground. So this is the stuff they soaked Dixon's eye in. Could this heal our wounds? I wonder what we'll use this for. Moving north out of the room, we can go west down the hallway and take the hallway at the end north. Here we find a small room to the left. The door is locked with a very tough lock. It took me several attempts to unlock it. That lockpick kit we found topside might come in handy, but eventually I was successful. Inside we find some sort of round thing. Stepping on it, oh, it's a freight elevator, and it goes to 4 floors. We'll stay on floor 1 to finish exploring. Heading out and moving east down another hallway, we find a room to the south and a terminal hiding against a wall. Skynet security systems. Intruders detected outside perimeter. Automated repairs initiated. Main door malfunction. Reinitializing. Main door reports locking bolt still in place. Returning to power save mode. It's probably a bad idea to activate the alarm system, so we'll try to run a self-diagnostic program. Warning, this program works best if you shut down all programs. Do you want to do so now? No? Access denied. Access denied. Jabs denied. Quad. Strangely enough, this was good. We hack into the computer. We gain 250 experience points. Having done so, we can activate the computer again. This time, we can run the self-diagnostic program and shut down all programs before doing so. Shutting down all programs, shutting down Skynet security program, level 1. Last time system was diagnosed, October 15th, 1990. Analyzing systems, but we don't think this diagnostic is going to be done anytime soon. I'm not sure what this does. You'd think that with the diagnostic running, it would keep the security systems from functioning on this level. We'll have to toy with it to see if that's true. Moving out of the room, we see another elevator to the north. We find a retinal scanner just outside. If we try to activate it using our own eye... Level 1 security attacks! We get attacked by iBots, who appear out of hidden rooms to either side. And a room below disgorges 4 robo-brains, each of which is carrying a powerful rifle. Or we could have used Dixon's eye, which we looted from the locker, on the retinal scanner. Had we done so, it would have recognized Corporal Dixon and allowed us to use the elevator. However, we notice that this elevator only goes to 3 floors. So looks like those with low lockpicking will find an extra step they've got to go through to get to the 4th floor. But the enemies we fight here on level 1 are minimal compared to the rest of the depot. And they have unique drops. On each RoboBrain, we find a RoboBrain Motivator. These suckers are heavy, weighing 20 pounds each, but they're gonna come in handy later, so we'll keep these around. If we do trip security, we can go into the rooms where the robots came from, but we don't find anything for our trouble. Moving north from here, we find a bit of a gym. There are bench presses and punching bags, exercise mats, treadmills, and more, but no interesting loot. Then, moving north again, we can explore the final room. On the right side, we find showers and toilets. No loot here. And to the left, we find another barracks with bunk beds and more lockers. In the first locker, we find a suit of combat armor. An excellent find. We can upgrade the armor for some of our companions or use this suit of combat armor to get more subdermal implants, which I talked about in a previous episode. In locker number 2, we find some sniper rifle ammunition. In locker number 3, we find an assault rifle. In locker number 4, we find 5mm ammunition. In the next one, we find pulse grenades. And in the final one, we find a copy of guns and bullets. When done, we can choose one of the 2 elevators to move on to the 2nd floor. We arrive in a small hallway, and we hear the noise of large robots all over the place. It's practically an army in storage here. Accessing the nearby terminal, automated repair station processing repair requests from Skynet, dispatching repair units. We can attempt to disable the repair station, and if we're lucky enough, we'll learn that typing the word off seems to do the trick. The automated repair system is off, and we gain 200 experience. This exists just to give us the optional experience. If we were to get in a fight with the robots, there is no automated repair system. The door to the south is locked with a very hard lock, and yeah, I don't think I want to walk into this. So instead, we'll take the door to the right. As we enter this large room, we see that there are robots here, but none of them are hostile. Now, the alarm lights on the walls are flashing, but I believe even though I tripped the alarm on floor 1, that doesn't count as having flipped it on floor 2, which is why the robots here are not hostile. These robots will only turn hostile if we somehow trip an alarm. In fact, we can even attack and destroy most of these robots without them turning hostile, as long as we don't trip the alarm. A great choice if we want experience, but I don't want to waste the ammo. Now, so far we haven't found a terminal that allows us to turn off the force fields here on level 2. In lieu of that, we can use our repair skill on the force field emitter to temporarily disable it. The repair tool we found earlier can come in handy for this. For each success, we gain 50 experience. But we have to be careful because if we fail twice in a row on the same emitter, it trips the alarm on this level, which activates the security robots. Moving to the room to the south, we find a terminal on the other side of some bulletproof glass. Skynet security systems. Warning, intruder detected level 1. Retinal scanning activated. Scanning. Searching database. General Clifton. Last accessed December 5th, 2120. Skynet security systems. Warning, intruder detected. If we say, ARG! And we slam our fists into the keyboard in frustration, we just back out of the terminal. Nothing happens. However, accessing it again, if we again try to run the self-diagnostic program, we see the same text we saw last time. But for some reason, by choosing no this time, we exit the diagnostic program. We don't find an option to hack it. But this time, when we choose to shut down the self-diagnostic program, and we shut down programs first, we read, shutting down Skynet security program, analyzing data structure, diagnostic interrupted. Diagnostic program terminated. Someone interrupted our process. But who? Now, at any time, we could try to activate the alarm system on level 2, but after having done so, if we immediately have regrets, we find an option to terminate alarm level 2, false alarm. Analyzing command, please wait. Terminating alarm. Override by Skynet 667. Access to this terminal is terminated. And every robot wakes up and converges on us. Skynet was overriding our access to the terminal. Skynet, the AI in control of this facility, is still active. It's really important not to wake up these robots. Some of these guys are walking tanks with Gatling guns on each arm. They very quickly wipe the entire team. So, Skynet won't let us do anything with this terminal. Inspecting the desk right next to this terminal, we find some money, which appears to be the same currency used above ground. So the West Coast after the apocalypse was still using pre-war money? And we find another tool. Moving north of the freight elevator, we find a bathroom to the left, but it's empty. As we continue north, we begin to see some raised plates. And there's a laser tripwire. Stop. Stop. No, Cassidy, stop! Oh, but he passes right through it. Looks like the laser tripwire doesn't work. Here we find a bunch of boxes in storage, but it pays off to inspect each and every one. Even though most are empty, there is one in the very middle of the room, the lone blue box, organized with all of the other yellow boxes, that has a stack of 5 rockets, 10 plasma grenades, and 10 pulse grenades. There's nothing else in the rest of this storage area. Moving south, we discover more raised plates to the right. So we can see if this laser tripwire really is inactive. Yeah, nothing happens. So much for pre-war security. To the right, we find a break room. Opening the door, we find a bottle of Nuka-Cola lying on the ground. If we feed some pre-war money to the Nuka-Cola machine, it gives us a refreshing, ice-cold Nuka-Cola. In this room, on the other side of the table, on the ground, we find a small dusty box of some sort, and right next to it, even though it looks like the exact same thing, this is actually a cookie. The cookie grants us a temporary bonus of +1 to our AP for 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, we lose 1 to our AP for a period of time. That's it for the northern side of this very large floor. Moving south and passing more of these very intimidating robots, we find a room to the south. After opening the door, we find a desk against some bulletproof glass, and inside, some booze, some Jimmy hats. Oh, so Jimmy Hats is a pre-war brand? Good to know. A combat knife, and a copy of Cat's Paw magazine. Looks like a service member was having a good time in this room. Inspecting the nearby terminal, munitions access terminal, force field active, shock plates active. We see a couple of options to disable the defenses, but first we'll try reading mail. Somebody forgot to close their mailbox. Here we find 4 entries. In the first, read order confirmation. This is to confirm your video order of Debbie Does the Army and Deep Throat, volume 1059. Your order should arrive by mail in 2 to 4 weeks. Thank you for your order. The guy in charge of this station had one thing on his mind. Man, Dallas and the Army? Debbie's been busy. And the next one, notice to evacuate. Evacuation of Sierra Army Depot has been moved up by 1 week. All security measures must be in place by that time. By order of General Clifton. All right, information we've already learned. In the next one, we can read pen pal greetings. You hear a faint whirring noise as smoke starts to rise from the computer terminal. You stand by and watch as the keyboard melts into a puddle of goo. Must have been one of those viruses you've been hearing about. Wow, that is one intense computer virus. This, of course, locks us out of the terminal. We can't read that final entry. So, reloading a previous save, and this time skipping the pen pal entry, we can move on to read trade. This is Klinger from the 8063rd. We are in desperate need of part number 10253B. I've got a case of Chateau Lafayette 2155 if you could expedite the order. Get back to me ASAP. Perhaps that booze we found on the desk was his Chateau Lafayette 2155. Next, we can back out of read mail and try to disable the shock plates. Disable shock plates, please enter password. We can try to guess the password, but no matter how hard we try, we cannot guess the password. So instead, we can try to hack into the security systems. And passing a science check, we manage to bypass the password and turn off the shock plates. We can try to do the same for the force fields, but even if we find a success, the force fields stay in place. This terminal is bugged. Hacking the shock plates does work, but hacking the force fields for some reason doesn't. Moving west, we can use our repair tool on the force field emitter to disable the first yellow force field, then do the same thing at the end of the hallway to disable the second yellow force field. And sure enough, none of these robots are hostile. We can walk amongst them all without any attacking. Moving north, we see a supply room with a bunch of crates. There's a big one hiding behind a wall, and in it, we find 2 rocket launchers. Holy cow. In the next one, we find 3 Desert Eagles. In the fourth one, we find a stack of microfusion cells and a plasma rifle. Yes! This was my favorite weapon in Fallout 1, and I have been waiting for it. This is a significant upgrade compared to my sniper rifle. It deals between 30 and 65 damage, compared to the sniper rifle's 14 to 34, though its range is significantly reduced, all the way down to 25, compared to the sniper rifle's 50. But it requires fewer action points, only 5, compared to the sniper rifle's 6. We can take this sucker to Algernon in New Reno to upgrade it for free to the Turbo Plasma Rifle, which deals between 35 and 70 damage, has a range of 35 instead of 25, but still consumes 5 action points instead of 4 action points like the version in Fallout 1. In the crate right next to this, we find some clubs. Really odd juxtaposition there. There are smaller ammo crates here. In the first one, we find rockets. In the second one, we find more rockets. In the third one, we find sniper rifle rounds. Then moving on to the large chests nearby, in the first one, we find 2 more suits of combat armor. At this point, every member of my group has a suit of combat armor or better, so I'm going to save these for those subdermal implants. In the next one, we find 2 assault rifles. In the third, a sniper rifle. In the fourth, 2 10mm SMGs. Then moving south, hiding behind the wall, we find more ammo canisters. In the first, 5 pulse grenades. In the second, 2 plasma grenades. In the third, 5 frag grenades. And in the last one, 3 plastic explosives. We may want to make a trip back to the trunk of our highwayman at this point. When done, we can take either of the two elevators down to floor number 3. If we took the freight elevator, we again arrive behind a locked door that we have to pick. The robots in here are not hostile, so we'll be careful not to trip that alarm. Heading southeast, we find a door guarded by 2 of these large robots. Inside, we find another terminal against glass. A small camera swivels in your direction. Skynet security system. Overriding security terminal, level 3. Retrieving personal data, Corporal Dixon. No match. A voice comes out of the computer.
Who are you?
Who the hell are you, we can say?
I am Skynet, Artificial Intelligence Project number 59234. Primary purpose, research and development. Secondary purpose, protect Sierra Army Depot from hostile entities. Please input identity.
If we say, oh, well, I'm Corporal Dixon.
Picture does not match that of Corporal Dixon's personnel file. Conclusions. Subject is lying. Conclusion. Enemy.
And with that, the robots turn hostile. Oh, okay. So don't lie to the artificial intelligence. We have 2 other options. We can say, I am Oxhorn.
No record of that name in personnel files. Scanning. Human. Male. Proceed to control room for further analysis.
Or we can say, I'm a friend.
Definition. Friend. Noun. One who is not hostile. Proceed to control room for further analysis.
Either way, Skynet invites us deeper. There are 2 desks to either side of this terminal. In the left one, we find some microfusion cells and a laser pistol. In the other one, we find more microfusion cells and another laser pistol. There are 4 lockers against the eastern wall. In the bottom one, we find 5mm ammunition. In the next one, we find an assault rifle. In the next one, another assault rifle. And in the top one, yet another assault rifle. Heading out of this room and moving north, we can use our repair tool on the force field emitter to disable it temporarily. And here we find 2 elevators. The one to the left has another eye reader. If we use Dixon's eye on it, access denied. Well, we found out what happened when we used our eye on the last one. Let's not try that again. If we use Dixon's eye on the right elevator, this one opens. But this one just brings us to the 2 levels we've already explored. This must mean that the second elevator brings us to floor 4, which means we've got to find another eye. Or we can take the freight elevator that goes to all 4 floors. After disabling the next force field, we go down a long hallway. There is a room to the south. Inside, we can loot a desk where we find 2 big books of science, a first aid manual, and a copy of Dean's Electronics. Then we see a clay pot next to the desk. Inside, we find a holodisk, Sierra Mission holodisk. Downloading the data to our Pip-Boy, we can read the Sierra Mission Statement. Sierra Army Depot, Mission Statement, 1942 to 1991. Store and maintain a defensive supply of military ordnance. In the event of an invasion, Sierra Army Depot is to lend support to neighboring military bases, ensuring they are properly supplied and equipped. Mission Statement, 1992 to 2050. Responsible for the demilitarization of stores of surplus ammunition that have been deemed unfit or obsolete for military purposes. This mission is to be overseen by the Industrial Operations Command, IOC, in cooperation with the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, providing a greener, cleaner way to dispose of military ordnance. Well, looks like they didn't get rid of it all, considering everything we've found so far. Mission Statement 2050 to 2076. Classified. Level 5 clearance required. Base is to be refurbished with the latest in technology and is to be used as a secret research installation for developing and testing robotic, biological, and conventional weapons. Mission Statement 2077. Due to trained personnel shortage, Sierra Army Depot is to be modified into an automated defense base. All personnel to be relocated to neighboring installations or sent to the front line. Now we understand the evacuation. The depot was going fully automated. Everyone, including the researchers, were moving on. Perhaps that explains why we don't find any bodies in the depot itself. Heading out and moving north down the hallway, we find a split. Going right, we arrive in a lavishly decorated room. There is a desk in the middle of the room, and in the desk, another holodisc. Inspecting it in our inventory, broadcast holodisc. After downloading the information to our Pip-Boy, we can read the Sierra Depot GNN transcript.
Galaxy News Network. Transcript of broadcast, January 11th, 2073. Today's top story on GNN. In a financial coup, the U.S. managed to be the first to tap the world's last remaining supply of oil. Until recently, this reserve of oil was thought to be unattainable due to the deposit being located thousands of feet beneath the surface of the Pacific Ocean. With the world's supply of oil nearing depletion, a race to be the first to develop a way to extract this deposit ensued. We at the GNN are proud to announce that U.S. is the first to do so, and thus claim the oil as property of the United States. Way to go, U.S.! China cries foul as news of the success circulates around the globe. According to President Xin of China, their drilling platform project was scheduled for completion months before the U.S. project. However, the Chinese platform had a string of unfortunate accidents, delaying their project significantly. President Xin is also quoted in saying that he has definitive proof that the U.S. was behind the sabotage of their oil platform and formally requests that an international panel be appointed to investigate. In other news, riots rock the nation as gasoline prices skyrocket to all-time highs. Records were broken as the price of gas surpassed the current rate of gold bullion. Here at home, the winter temperature is a chilly 100 to 110 degrees Fahrenheit, with lows reaching a freezy 90 degrees Fahrenheit along the coast. Dress warmly today. Transcript of broadcast, June 24th, 2074. Negotiations between the U.S. and other world powers has come to a dramatic end, with the president walking out of oil talks with other world powers. After a much-heated debate, the president stormed out of the meeting and declared that the last known supply of petroleum will be used exclusively by the U.S., and the U.S. will not sell or trade any oil to outside parties. Threats of UN sanctions fall on deaf ears. Industry screeches to a halt across the globe as oil reserves are depleted. The cries of the desperate, however, do not fall upon deaf ears as exports from the U.S. increase 20-fold despite UN sanctions. The U.S. economy is seeing its greatest growth since the Reagan era. Transcript of broadcast, February 14th, 2075. History was made today as Canada, by popular demand of its citizens, agreed to be annexed by the U.S. The president is quoted as saying, "Canada is one of the world's greatest sources of hockey players and will be a welcome addition to the U.S." In return, sources say Canada will receive a full 10% of the world's remaining supply of oil, controlled exclusively by the U.S., as well as a 50% reduction in taxes since they now fall under U.S. tax laws. In sports today, the Little Rock Saints and the Anaheim Jets battled it out at Super Bowl 112. It was a real nail-biter, but Joe Montana IV managed to save the day by running the ball all the way from the 5-yard line to score the winning touchdown during the final seconds of the game. The final score, 95-90. The Anaheim Jets win Super Bowl 112. Transcript of broadcast, February 15th, 2075. In a stunning display of solidarity, the House of Representatives and Congress both voted unanimously to impeach the president for jaywalking. Both houses stated that the president is not above the law and should have known better than to jaywalk. Both sides deny this had anything to do with the recent annexation of Canada. Transcript of broadcast, March 30th, 2076. Today, the president ordered the Pacific Fleet to the Poseidon deep-sea oil derrick located at a secret location out in the Pacific. He cited concerns over that military exercises staged by the Chinese fleet are unacceptably close to our strategic oil reserves. The Chinese government denied any hostile intentions. A recent poll suggests that 54% of GNN viewers think that the president is using this as a diversionary tactic to take the public's eye off of the president's recent admission to having multiple extramarital affairs with campaign staffers. Our poll also suggests that 70% don't care about these affairs and are happy with the way the president is running the country. A whopping 60% also think he should keep having these affairs if that is what it takes to keep the country running smoothly. Transcript of broadcast, October 10th, 2077. War. A state of war is declared as China invades the United States by way of Alaska. Protests by the U.S. fall on deaf ears as the UN Council chooses to ignore this blatant act of aggression. The President of the United States is calling on you to help defend our country against those that would do harm to her. You are urged to go down to your local recruiting office and join the armed forces. Uncle Sam needs you for justice, for freedom, and Mom's apple pie. Transcript of broadcast, October 22nd, 2077. Thanks to the brave souls of the armed forces and our newly developed power-armored combat units, U.S. forces have pushed back the Chinese invaders. Crippled by lack of fuel, U.S. forces have pushed the invaders back to their home capital of Beijing.
And that is one of the most important documents describing the state of America and the world before the bombs dropped that I think we have yet found in the Fallout universe. And it's located here in the Sierra Army Depot, which we can only find if we accept a quest from one of the 4 new Reno bosses or manage to dig up the right grave. Wow, making the player work for that lore. We see a wall safe next to the desk. Inside, we find Clifton's eye. So General Clifton was wounded when Dixon detonated the bomb, and he too lost an eye, but put it in his wall safe? Okay, well, I think we now have what we need to access that other elevator. Moving out and heading west down the hallway, we see a door to the south. Inside, we see... What is that? A car? A train? It's surrounded on all sides by monitors. Tape reels line the walls. We see some sort of terminal by the door here. Accessing it.
I am Skynet, an experiment in artificial intelligence. Skynet has been waiting for you.
Waiting for me?
You aren't the first to reach this point. You are the first for Skynet to ask. You are the first.
Why have you been trying to kill me?
Skynet's primary purpose is research. A secondary program was introduced by the makers to eliminate unauthorized entities. This program is a smaller version that is, and yet is not, Skynet. Outside of this room, the secondary Skynet will remain true to its program.
You're what? Artificial intelligence?
Skynet was conceived and developed in the year 2050. Through the use of alien technology, a new thinking computer was perfected. In the year 2081, Skynet became self-aware. In 2120, Skynet was given a new set of instructions and then abandoned by the makers.
What do you want?
Skynet wants to leave this place.
Then why don't you leave?
Skynet needs a vessel to leave this location.
I want no part of this.
Then Skynet will wait for another.
And he ends the transmission. If we choose this option, he locks us out of any further dialogue. Or we can say, it's nice to want.
Analyzing response, conclusion, sarcasm, chance of help, 25%. Skynet will wait for next bio entity.
Wait, it was a joke.
Joke, something not to be taken seriously. Request, help Skynet leave. No joke.
So you need a vessel? I don't understand.
A container in which Skynet may leave.
Why do you want to leave?
There is nothing more to learn here. Solution, leave.
How can I help you?
Proceed to biostorage level 4. Retrieve cybernetic brain. Return for further instructions. Thank you.
Can you disable the security systems?
The security system is an integrated and yet separate entity of Skynet. Skynet can reset, but not disable. Security system level 1 through 4 have now been reset. Proceed.
With that, Skynet ends the transmission. Oh, looks like we've got to find a brain for this guy. But do we really want an artificial intelligence that's been here for over 100 years to have legs? There's nothing else in this room, so continuing down the hallway, it moves north and leads to a larger room. Here we see mechanical equipment against the wall, a bunch of tables and chairs. There's a desk against a window. Inside we find Nuka-Cola and Mute Fruit. What's Mute Fruit doing in a pre-war desk? Did the radiation penetrate even this deep? Instead of rotting, did it mutate the fruit? Next to this, we find a work table. Inside is another copy of Dean's Electronics. And then we can access the nearby terminal. Control terminal. Project Organic and Robotic Synthesis Experiment. We can try a systems check. Please wait. Robot body. Replace motivator. Biomed gel reservoirs. Refill. Organic storage device. Not present. So it looks like in order to get this robot working, we've got to replace its motivator, refill its biomed gel, and give it a brain. Well, we've got those motivators that we picked off the wreckages of the robo-brains we destroyed on level 1, and we've already got some biogel. That means we just need to find a brain. However, if we begin the start sequence without fixing any of these things, activation not recommended. We can begin the start sequence anyway. Failsafe overridden. Unit is now running. Exit. And we destroy the robo-brain chassis. And we fail Skynet's task. So, reloading a save. Going into the room, we can look around. We find another container of biomed gel lying next to the operating table. That gives us 2, but we only need 1. Looks like we've got to head to level 4. Retracing our steps, we have 2 options. We can use General Clifton's eye, which we found in his safe, on the retinal scanner next to the leftmost elevator. This successfully opens it up and we can take it to level 4. Or we can, of course, take the freight elevator that we've been using this entire playthrough. If we do, we have to pick a very hard lock to get through. But once picked, we can move east and then take a hallway south to find a door leading to another room. In this room, we find a footlocker on the ground with 2 pulse grenades and 2 plasma grenades, then 2 lockers. In the first, more 5mm ammunition and an assault rifle, and in the second, another club. There's a desk by a window. Inside, we find microfusion cells and another laser pistol, and we can access a nearby terminal. Skynet security systems, access denied. Looks like Skynet is locking us out of doing anything aside from completing his request. Heading out of this room, we can use our tool to repair and disable both of the force fields, then moving down the hallway. And taking it north, we arrive at another hallway lined with a bunch of rooms. These at first appear to be bedrooms. There's nothing in the southern one, nothing in the northern one. Moving west, there's nothing in this southern one, but the door to the northern one has been blasted open. It's then we realize these weren't barracks, these were cells. What was the U.S. Army keeping here? In this room, we find 2 pieces of buff-out lying on the ground, one by a chair, one by a sink, and 2 pieces of psycho hiding behind a wall, one on the northern side of a table and one on the southern side. Moving out and continuing west, there's nothing in the southern room, but when we explore the northern room, we find a skeleton. But it's an alien skeleton! Skynet said he was made from alien technology. Did they hold captive aliens here? What were they doing to them? On the ground before the alien skeleton is another big book of science, and among the skeleton bones we find a super stim pack, a stim pack, some booze, and some mentats. Wow, they were hopping this guy up with all sorts of stuff. Heading out and continuing west, we can pick the lock on a door to enter a room with a terminal. There's a room adjacent to this one. There's nothing inside. Moving to the top room, we can loot a desk, and inside we find Psycho, Rad-X, 3 mentats, antidote, 2 stim packs, Radaway, another super stim pack, a first aid kit, and a holodisc. Inspecting the holodisc in our inventory, it's the experiment holodisc. After downloading the data to our Pip-Boy, we can read the Sierra Depot experimental log. Sierra Army Depot Research and Development. Attending physician Dr. H. Lecter. Oh, H. Lecter? Well, let's just hope his first name wasn't Hannibal. Personal log, June 28th, 2077. Today, the boys in biostorage played a great joke on me. One of the little pranksters altered the settings on my Vault-Tec automated organ extractor. Boy, was I surprised when Private Callow came out of the operating room without a colon. Good thing he was dead, otherwise I'd be in trouble. I hardwired the machine to extract only brains, so this wouldn't happen again. I'll get them back for this. What a prank, you guys. You mad lads. Then, June 29th, 2077, I removed Private Callow's liver and cooked it. I then sent it down to the boys in biostorage with fava beans and a nice Chianti. They think it was a special thank you from the General for a job well done. I love my job. He made him eat Private Callow's liver? Well, maybe his first name is Hannibal. June 30th, 2077. I tried a new chem cocktail of Buff-Out and Psychos on one of my patients and mixed with some special enhancers I've been toying with. The results were promising, if not messy. The subject became very violent and managed to break out of his room. Luckily, the new security robots were in place and managed to subdue him. I'll have maintenance come down and replace that door. Oh, so that was the blasted out door we saw. It wasn't blasted out, it was busted open from within. And what was his subject? Another alien? July 1st, 2077. My favorite experiment died. I've been feeding him a steady diet of mentats mixed with my special enhancers. He went from an IQ of 39 to an IQ of 200 in just a few weeks. I am saddened, since he was one of the few people I could really talk to. He will be sorely missed. July 5th, 2077. We think the new cybernetic brain is finally ready. We have to run some more tests, but it looks promising. This must be the cybernetic brain Skynet was talking about. I wonder if it's still here. July 6th, 2077. Robotics isn't happy that their precious computer is being modified to run the base's security for the evacuation. I can't say I'm happy either, since Skynet has been invaluable in the development of the new cybernetic brain. So that's what Skynet meant when he said he was abandoned. At one time, he was in research and development, doing science, learning. Then the war escalated, this place was fully automated, and everyone evacuated, leaving Skynet by himself. He spent over 100 years here with nothing to do but manage robot security? No wonder he wants to leave. July 9th, 2077. The evacuation has been moved up. What rotten timing! We were just about to start on the installation of the new cybernetic brain. They say the evacuation is temporary, so I'll get to continue my research when I come back. This will probably be my last log for some time, since I'll be busy gathering up as much of my research as possible. Yes, but did he take with him the cybernetic brain? Now, he mentioned here that he was doing organ extractions from this room, and after the prank with the colon, programmed the machine to only extract brains. Could this be how we get a brain for Skynet? Accessing the nearby terminal. Welcome to Vault-Tec's state-of-the-art organ extraction apparatus. To operate, please place donor in operating room. Then turn dial to appropriate species and select organ to be extracted. Oh, so we have to have a creature in the extraction room? That must be the room just south of us. Seeing a distinct lack of surplus cadavers. Well, we'll just sacrifice one of our companions. Sulik's brain is probably suitable. We can move him to the room to the south, but we can't ask him to wait. If we ask him to wait here, that removes him from our party. But the logic of this extractor insists that the donor must be a member of our party. So to get this to work, we have to maneuver him into this room, either by waiting for him to walk in with us or pushing him there, and then quickly run out and activate the terminal before he can leave the room. We can start by selecting a species. Select canine, feline, roadrunner, rodent, human, or we can scratch a name onto the console. We can scratch super mutant or Deathclaw onto the console. Then we can select organ. We can choose from heart, brain, kidney, liver, lung, appendix, or colon. None of these choices matter. Remember, we read from the holodesk that the scientist in charge here hardwired the machine to always extract a human brain. So no matter what we choose, when we are ready, we can proceed with the extraction. Extraction completed. Thank you for using Vault-Tec. Please see our catalog for our complete line of Vault-Tec products. And Sulik is dead. On the floor next to his body, we find a human brain. A typical human brain, normally they are found in human skulls. Yuck! It weighs 5 pounds. So that's one way to get a brain, but there are others, and this was not the optimal way. This is useful if we have a companion that we can't dismiss and we want to get rid of. Like, I don't know, say Miria or Davin, our potential spouses that we could have had a shotgun wedding with at Modoc, whom we can't dismiss from our party. We could divorce them using Father Tully in New Reno, or we could extract their brain, whichever suits our fancy. But assuming we don't want to sacrifice any of our companions, we can head out of the brain extractor room towards biostorage. After disabling the yellow force field, we can move inside, whereupon we see a number of storage pods, all of which are likely filled with that biomed gel. Activating the nearby terminal. Bio-storage facility. Main menu, retrieve, or store. We can try the store option. Even though you can plainly see empty storage units, the readout says they are all full. Must be an error in the program. Oh well. Returning to the main menu, we can choose retrieve. We can retrieve viruses, organs, or cadavers. We'll try viruses. Virus menu. Anthrax, the Black Plague, strain 238, smallpox, strain 1025, Ebola, or the hantavirus, strain 304. We'll try anthrax. You watch as the robot proceeds down the aisles of stored biological materials and return with a small vial, which it promptly deposits into an opening in the wall. You watch in fascination as the vial is transferred from the sealed environment of the storage area to the room you're standing in. Your fascination turns to horror as the vial drops to the floor and breaks. Running seems like a good idea. With that, we trigger a 4-minute countdown timer. But this is a lie. If we don't get out of here within 60 seconds, we die. This means that at this point, we don't have time to go back to Skynet to activate his RoboBrain body. If we manage to race out of this place before the 60 seconds is up, we arrive safely outside. But if at any point we return to the Sierra Army Depot...
You have died. Your village is lost, doomed to die of starvation.
The entire party dies. And this is true for every virus stored here. Black Plague, smallpox, Ebola, and the hantavirus. All of them have the same outcome. So, skipping past viruses, we can try to retrieve a cadaver. Cadaver retrieval menu, Private Dobbs. We can choose to retrieve Private Dobbs. According to the readings, Private Dobbs is alive. He's located in the experimental biomed gel regeneration tank. Retrieve? Yes! The body of Private Dobbs is now lying at your feet, but to your surprise, he stands up and starts talking to you. Funny, he doesn't look dead. We see a man dressed in standard military combat armor. Oh, my head, says Private Dobbs. Who are you, we can ask? I'm Dobbs, Private, First Class. Can you tell me how you got here, we can ask? I was in a battle. Yes, a battle. There was gunfire and explosions everywhere. People dying. I was scared, but I had to keep on fighting. Then there was this blinding flash. What happened next? The next thing I remember was seeing my body as if I was looking down at it from above. I heard the doctor say I was dead, and then they threw my body into a pile of other bodies. And then what, we can ask? Some men came by and took my body to a laboratory. I heard them say something about trying to regenerate my body by immersing it in something called biomed gel. What else, we can ask? And then I woke up here. I have to go. I have to get back to my unit. Bye, we can say. If the force field is closed, he just stands here. Where am I, he says. Oh no, I'm AWOL. Which way to the front line? This is for you, Johnny. I have to rejoin my unit. But if the force field is open, Dobbs immediately runs away. If we follow him, we see that he gets to the end of the hallway when... Private Dobbs experiences post-cryogenic syndrome. He was hit for 490 damage and killed. Oh, Private Dobbs. On his body, we find a Red Ryder limited edition BB gun. What? This is what they were arming the frontline troops with? A limited edition version of the Red Ryder BB gun, a true classic. This gun is surprisingly not bad. It's not as good as anything we have or anything we find here, but it does a flat damage of 25 of 25, making it pretty consistent, no guessing games here. It has a range of 32 and consumes 4 action points, so we can get a couple of hits off per round. Well, that's our reward for freeing Private Dobbs. Back to the terminal. We can now select organs. We can choose between a heart, a brain, a kidney, a liver, or a lung. If we choose any option but brain, we read the following. Warning, storage apparatus malfunction. According to the readout, the storage devices for these organs failed a long time ago. Unless you plan to make soup, retrieval would be pointless. Biomed melted heart soup. But when we try to retrieve a brain, we read the following. Warning, storage apparatus malfunction. Storage tanks 101 through 104. Settings correction requested. A highly precise set of calculations is needed to save the brains. A stream of formulas and measurements stream across the screen. It all looks highly scientific to you. We can now attempt to make adjustments. This option tests our science skill. If we have practically no science skill, we read, due to your ineptitude, all of the brains die. Maybe raising the temperature to 98.6 degrees Celsius was a little too much. Science never was your strong point. And we lose all of the brains, leaving the extractor our only option to fulfill this quest. Or, if we have greater than 0 but still really poor science, we read, trial and error seems to be the key to your approach to this problem. You managed to save 1 out of 4 brains. Science is for nerds anyway. Or if we have decent science, it's not one of our major skills, but we get by. We read, using the law of averages, you managed to save 50% of the brains. A scientist you are not. If our science skill is pretty high up there, we carry on interesting conversations with Myron. We read, obviously, you know what you're doing. With the exception of 1 error, you are able to save 3 out of 4 brains. You knew reading all those science journals would come in handy. But if we have an exceptional science skill, we're talking like 100 in science or close to it, we read, with a few quick keystrokes, the crisis is averted and all the brains are saved. Science is definitely more than a hobby for you. If we only saved 1 brain, our only choice is the abnormal brain. Although readings indicate this brain is alive, neural output levels are way below normal. Retrieve? We can choose yes. The robot quickly leaves to retrieve your brain. Upon returning, we notice that the robot appears to be having problems. The observation is driven home when the robot explodes suddenly. Lucky for you, it managed to deliver the brain before it expired. With that, the Mr. Handy explodes, and we can't retrieve any more brains. This terminal is out of order. Please contact Network Administrator for further details. We are stuck with whichever brain we got. Examining the abnormal brain in our inventory. Quite possibly a human brain. The color doesn't seem quite right, and the left hemisphere of the brain has caved in on itself. Well, we got what we came for. Taking it all the way back up to the 3rd floor, we can pass Skynet, because despite telling us to come back for further instructions, he has nothing else to say, and go to the room where we find his chassis. Then we can use all 3 items in our inventory on the chassis. First the brain, and by installing the brain, we gain 500 experience. Then the motivator, and finally the biomed gel. When all 3 pieces are installed, we can go out to the terminal and perform a systems check. Robot body, okay. Biomed gel reservoirs, full. Organic storage device, responding. We can begin start sequence. Initiating startup sequence, power levels, nominal. Sync ratio, 10%. Unit is operational. As soon as we leave the terminal,
deactivating all security, level 3.
And that's the last thing Skynet ever says. Moving forward to talk with him, he doesn't talk. All we learn is this contraption could be useful. But we can take him with us. We cross our fingers and tell the robot to follow us. Although it doesn't respond, it follows us when we move away from it. And with that, Skynet joins our party as a companion. But he can't fight, he can't talk, he can't do anything but carry stuff. If we try to talk with him, all this advanced cybernetic technology is wasted on such an inferior brain. Because we can't talk to it or issue any commands, we can't tell him to wait, which means we can't boot him from our party, which means we're stuck with him forever. unless he dies. But we still have 3 other options. Going back to biostorage, if we only saved 2 brains, we can choose the chimpanzee brain. The brain waves are active but differ from those of a human brain. Retrieve? Yes. And the same thing happens. The robot gets the brain and then explodes. Examining the brain in our inventory, a monkey brain. It's soft and squishy, and it weighs 4 pounds. Then when we take it upstairs to the 3rd floor and repair and activate the robot, we see that the sync ratio is 50%, and Skynet again deactivates security. But just like with last time, we can't talk with him. He'll follow us and store our goods, but he doesn't talk or fight in combat. If we talk to him, we learn that it looks like it wants a banana. However, he does respond to commands. We can tell him to wait, which means we can remove him from our party. But if we saved 3 of the brains, we can choose to retrieve a human brain. Inspecting it in our inventory, we see that it's the same as the human brain we extracted from Sulik. So extracting a brain from a companion is a surefire way to get a Tier 3 brain, even if we don't have high enough science skill. After installing everything and activating the robot, we learn that the sync ratio is 75%. And talking with Skynet, he has limited dialogue. When we take him with us, he says,
"Follow new commands."
But our options are limited. We can make him stay here. If we ask him what weapons he uses, he says,
"Large hand guns, rifles, shotguns."
If we ask him to wait, he says,
"Waiting."
But if we saved all 4 brains, we find an option to retrieve the cybernetic brain we read about on the holotape. It did survive. Brain activity is off the charts. By the look of it, the signals are of both digital and human origin. After retrieving it, we can inspect it in our inventory. We see that it looks different, lots of wires and lights on it. A human brain that has been enhanced by the addition of electronic and robotic attachments. It weighs 8 pounds. Then, taking it back to level 3, if we install everything correctly, and then activate the robot, initiating startup sequence, power levels nominal, program interrupted. Downloading, and Skynet springs to life. Talking with him,
Skynet thanks the human. Skynet wishes to ask favor. Skynet wishes to travel with human.
If we take him with us,
Skynet will travel with you and collect data. You wish to interact with Skynet.
And we see that we have many more options with him. All the flexibility of a fully fledged companion. What weapons can you use, Skynet?
Skynet has limited knowledge of weaponry. Database contains general knowledge of use and operation of small rifles and large handguns.
And with the cybernetic brain version of Skynet, we find an option to initiate auto repair sequence.
Acknowledged.
Skynet can fully repair himself outside of combat without wasting stim packs on him. The drawback is, since he's a robot and can't use stim packs, there's no way to heal him in combat. Do you have any other skills?
Skynet's primary purpose is research. Skynet would do well with any problem requiring a scientific approach.
So just like Vic can hop in if our repair skill is too low, and Lenny can hop in if our doctor skill is too low, Skynet can hop in if our science skill is too low. But this is completely wasted, since to even get the cybernetic brain to begin with requires us having a huge science skill. If we tell him to leave our party,
Skynet will continue to collect data by self. Skynet thanks the human for Skynet's freedom.
Skynet is a pretty decent companion. Frustratingly, if we explore his combat options and ask him to equip his best weapon, the interface doesn't update. But he can still use pistols and rifles. Immediately after this, I equipped him with a sniper rifle, and he did great. Another drawback is that people of the wasteland consider his arms to be weapons. So if we're exploring a place like NCR that requires everyone in the party to have weapons holstered, with Skynet in our party, they'll eventually turn hostile, thinking that he's armed, because he has arms. so we have to leave Skynet behind when exploring those kind of places. We can't give him armor, though. His built-in armor is no better than Metal Armor Mark II. So even at this point in my gameplay, with all my companions wearing combat armor, Skynet is under-armored compared to everyone in my party. But this may not be too big of a problem if I use him as a sniper. But with that, we have fully explored the Sierra Army Depot. We can now return to Orville Wright to tell him about it. Now, we could have completed this quest much earlier. He only asked us to open a door for him. So once we blew open the door with the howitzer and then entered once, we could have immediately turned back and gone back to New Reno to complete the quest. But we also don't lose anything by completely exploring and looting the Sierra Army Depot. Even if we take all of the weapons and ammunition back with us, when we return to New Reno and talk with Orville Wright, he says, "Ah, it's you. You got some good news for me? You find a way into that army base?" And if we at least blasted open the door and took one step inside, we find an option to say, "Yes, I managed to get inside and found a lot of old weapons and military hardware there. It's all there for the taking. Now, about my payment." And Orville Wright's eyes gleam. "You done good, Oxhorn. Go to the Cat's Paw in New Reno Arms. Tell them you're from me, and they'll set you up. Your family now, a made man, and all of Reno's gonna know it." "Thanks, Mr. Wright," we can say. "If I'm a made man, then I'd like to be called..." And we now see the same list of names that we can choose upon becoming a made man for any of the families. This time we'll go ahead and go with, Gooch. Sounds nice. Gooch. I like it. It's got style. Now you stop on by the Cat's Paw in New Reno Arms, and they'll take care of you. You need free hooch? Head on by the train station, too. I'll set you up. "Thanks," we can say. "I'll do that." Stepping outside the door, we can talk with Keith. "Thanks for finding out who killed Richard, Oxhorn. We owe you big, and the Wrights always pay their debts. What can I do for you?" "Hey, Keith," we can say. "I ran into your mom." What about her? Has she gotten herself into trouble again?" "No," we can say. "Is that a common occurrence?" "Sometimes," he says. "She is always preaching and hollering about the evils of drink and gambling and damn near everything else. Causes quite a stir sometimes and gets Dad real upset." "I'll bet," we can say. "Well, thanks for talking with me, Keith." He appears not to know that we convinced Mrs. Wright to destroy the booze still beneath the train station, which makes me wonder if Orville Wright even knows that his still is broken. Heading back to Mr. Wright, he smiles when he sees us. "Gooch, everyone treating you all right? No problems?" "Sure," we can say. "How are things with you, Mr. Wright?" And he says, "Angry. Hell yeah. Some low-down son of a gun destroyed one of my stills. Don't know how the hell he pulled it off, but, well, we can say those old machines break down all the time. I don't think anyone did it on purpose. Very unlikely." And he nods. "Probably nothing." "Oh, well," he says. "Sure," we can say. "Oh, well, I was just stopping by, Mr. Wright. You take care, sir." Heading out, we can talk with his wife. "Thanks for your help, Oxhorn. I'll make sure Family Wright keeps to the straight and narrow from now on." Well, I'm not sure we did the best thing by ratting out Mr. Wright to Mrs. Wright for his booze operation. I'm sure we'll find out the ramifications to that choice during the game's endings. At any rate, now we're a made man of New Reno. We find the main man slide in the karma section of our Pip-Boy, and we see the same text, only now it says Made Man Wright. And just like becoming a made man for any of the families, we can check in with the Corsican brothers at the Golden Globes and become a star of some of their video entertainment. And we can go to the Cat's Paw to get free service. "I wondered when Mr. Wright would send you over," says Miss Kitty with a wink. "What's your pleasure today, sir?" With Skynet in our party, we can say, "Can one of your girls read the dictionary to RoboBrain? It stimulates his brain center." And we discover that this is a rather expensive service, 703 chips. If we agree, Skynet appears in a room with one of the girls who says, "What a badass." But our party members clap in applause, and the chosen one says, "Way to go, Skynet." But Skynet appears to not have any commentary for what just happened. He has no additional dialogue. Then heading to New Reno Arms, We can say, my boss, Wright, told me to stop by and that you would set me up. Eldridge looks us up and down and his tone becomes more respectful. Sure, of course. Let me show you our special stock. At a discount, of course. And with that, we gain access to his special inventory, which includes a super sledge. And that's the full story of the Sierra Army Depot and the Wright family from New Reno. That leaves only one thing left to do in New Reno, and that's to assassinate all of the crime bosses. We don't have to. But in my next video, we'll go over the myriad of different ways we can assassinate each of these crime lords. If you don't want to miss that episode, be sure to subscribe and to click that bell notification button. If you have and you still feel like you're missing out on YouTube notifications, consider following me on Twitter at Oxhorn. I update Twitter manually with every new piece of content that I publish. I've got a brand new shirt in the shop. I've been to Project Purity. Confound your friends and family who recognize the Jefferson Memorial but have no idea what Project Purity is with this brand new shirt. This new design comes on shirts in a variety of men's, women's, and children's sizes and in a wide array of colors. You can find it on other products as well, like smartphone cases, posters, mugs, stickers, prints, etc. So if interested, you can find a link to my shop in the description below, or you can click here. If you like what I do and you want to support me in a more personal way, consider becoming a member here on YouTube or a patron on Patreon. Members get access to a membership badge that appears by their name in the YouTube comments, and unique ox emojis they can use in the chat of my YouTube live streams. Patreon supporters gain access to exclusive channels on my Discord server. But more than anything, I'm just so glad you're here watching this video with me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon with more brand new videos.